A blessed evening, brethren. We are sorry for the technicalities that we have been having. I hope they are now solved and we will now enjoy the word. As we have been saying, that we have been enjoying the lessons since even Vespers. We learned about Revelation chapter 18, and in the morning we learned about who caused the fall in 1888, and we found out who caused the fall, and we discovered that it was the person who was once being in line, working, being his books being recommended, but what really caused him to be like that, we found that he cherished what? Doubt. So it's important to hear that when we are hearing all this word of God, and God is talking to us through his messages, as we are hearing through PSM, that we do not cherish any lies. For if we cherish any doubt, it will lead us to similar results. Let us hear what inspiration says about cherishing doubts. We will read from CT, February 14, 1895, page 103, paragraph 5.
What caused this change? Nothing but cherishing of a single doubt. Here is a warning for those who think that doubt is a trivial matter.
So here is a warning that God is putting across to us, to all those who have heard this message, that don't take doubt as a trivial matter. Do not cherish doubt, because doubt is not a trivial matter. Let's hear what doubt will do to us.
Every doubt has matter connected in it. Those doubts which seem so perfectly natural that we scarcely call them doubt, but only the manifestation of proper caution, are things which, if cherished,
yes,
will cry, crucify him.
Yeah. So we see that every doubt that we cherish, brethren, is connected with what? With matter. We saw that when you read about the 1888 message, you found that the brethren persecuted, those two brethren, A.T. Jones and Wakona, who had brought the message, were strongly persecuted by the brethren. So it is when you cherish doubt that you are found on the side of persecuting the what? The messengers of God. And we see that those who once enjoyed the messages in the days of Christ, they were the ones who cried again, crucify him. We will find it. What really caused that change? It was because they cherished doubt. So God is telling us that we should not cherish doubt in his messages, so that we are able to actually enjoy his truth and we are sealed for the coming kingdom of glory. Our topic today, as I've indicated, it is the second advent and joy of the whole earth. You will observe that when we are talking about the second advent, we are talking about moving from this planet earth and moving into the where God dwells, which involves us flying in the air. For all those who are well versed with flying in the air, you know that you don't actually get an airplane or a flight coming right to your home. There is a place where you have to board the flight. So it is that when we are talking about the second advent, there must be a place where you must board the flight. Because we are not going to just board the flight wherever you are, some in Harare, some in Canada, some in England. People of God must be somewhere else where they will be able to board the plane, as they will be board for the heaven of what? Of heavens. So we'd like to study that section today so that we might enjoy the word of God. So we're not talking about the second advent. We want to hear what inspiration says we are really talking about. We shall read from the Desire of Ages, page 234, paragraph 4.
As the message of Christ's first advent announced the kingdom of his grace, so the message of his second advent announced the kingdom of his glory.
Right. So when we are talking about the second advent, God is clear that we are presenting the message that announces the kingdom of what? Of glory. Just like we have the message of the first advent of Christ, it was actually announcing the kingdom of what? Of grace. We remember when Christ used to preach and John used to preach, they said, the kingdom of God is at what? Is at hand. The kingdom which they were referring to, it was the kingdom of what? Of grace. But when we're now talking about the second advent, as we're learning today, then we are talking about the kingdom of glory. And this is that the kingdom of glory which I found, which makes the earth to have the very joy which we are talking about, the joy of the whole earth. So let us continue to hear what it says.
And the second message, like the first, is based on the prophecies.
So this second advent message, brethren, is not just taken from anywhere. It is based on the prophecies. It means there are prophecies that we will have to read There are prophecies that we have to study for us to understand about the what? The kingdom of what? Of glory. Meaning, you don't just say, we'll just be taken to heaven as in a rapture, as in a second. But we actually have to start prophecies that will tell us clearly as to what is expected and what is to take place. And definitely the prophecies that we are starting, they are the prophecies that relate to the kingdom of glory. As we have indicated that the second advent has to do with the kingdom of glory, just as the first advent had to do with the kingdom of what? Of Christ. So can we just continue?
The words of the angel to Daniel relating to the last days were to be understood in the time of the end.
Right. So we are the people who are living in the time of the end. We can finish that quotation on Desire of Ages to hear more. We'd like to know which, we'd like also to get more to understand what the second advent will also involve. You know, when we're talking about the second advent, it's something that is so great that when it takes place, so many things will have to happen. When you read Revelations 21 verse 5, it will say, "Behold, I make all things what? New." And when you think of the second advent, it also has to do with even the issues of the sun and the issues of the planet and everything in what which we have. So we really need to understand what will be involved in the second advent. So we'll read from the Timely Greetings, tract 9, page 30.4, where it says, "Since long with our heaven."
Since along with our heaven and earth,
Right?
therefore, our whole solar system is to pass away.
Right?
Not only the saints from earth then, but with them also the sons of God from the
Right.
whole system,
Uh-huh.
shall live and reign with Christ in the heaven of heavens for 1,000 years.
So we see what the second advent will actually involve. It will not only involve us here on earth, it will also involve the sons of God from all other planets who have never fallen. They will also be incorporated into this throne which shall take us into the heaven of heavens, and there to dwell with Christ for a 1,000 years and reign with him during those 1,000 years. And what does it say?
Oh, what a privilege! What an opportunity! What a gathering that will be!
Right. It's really a great opportunity that God is putting forward for us for the second advent. But now, as we now want to continue, we now want to understand that what is involved about the second advent. We know that in John chapter 19, Christ said, liken the kingdom of God and liken the second advent and say, it is like unto a man traveling into a far country to receive the what? The kingdom. And we saw that Christ left this earth and went into a far country to receive the what? The kingdom. So we'd like to understand more, as we're talking about the second advent, we'd like to understand where Christ is now. Where is that far country where Christ went? So that we have a little knowledge about it, so that we can understand what is involved at the second advent. Now, we'd like to read in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, to confirm that when Christ left this earth, where did he actually go? Please read for us.
It is not expedient for me, doubtless, to glory. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord.
All right.
I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, where in the body I cannot tell,
Right.
whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knows.
Right.
Such an one caught up to the third heaven.
Right. So this Paul here is talking about Christ, and he's saying, I know a man, referring to Christ, that when Christ was caught up, he went unto the third heaven. So where Christ is now is the third heaven, meaning from wherever you are, from all the planets or from the planet Earth, and when you look where Christ is, it is the third heaven. So he was caught up into what? Unto third heaven. Let us hear more how Moses described the third heaven in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 14.
Behold, the heaven of heavens is the Lord is thy God. The earth also with all that therein is.
So we find out that where Christ went is referred to as the heavens of heavens. And it is said, this is the Lord's. And the earth he had made for us. So we find out that where Christ went, it is the third heaven, and it is also referred as the heavens of heavens. And we shall discover that when we are now talking about the heaven of heavens, it is also of importance to understand that God when we are now saved, He will have us have a privilege of learning and understanding more about the heaven of heavens. We just like to understand a little bit about heaven of heavens before we continue. Can we just go to GC, page 677, paragraph 3, which says, all the treasures of the universe.
All the treasures of the universe will be open to the study of God's redeemed.
Right?
Unfettered by mortality, they wing their tireless flight to worlds afar.
Right?
Worlds that thrilled with sorrow at the spectacle of a woman who and rang with songs of gladness at the tidings of a ransomed soul.
Right? So we are seeing that when we are saved, we have that privilege to go learn all the treasures of the what? Of the universe, which involves understanding about these things. We also like to go down where then we find out what is involved in the universe. Let's say down, with undimmed vision they gaze.
With undimmed vision, they gaze upon the glory of creation, suns, and stars, and systems, all in their appointed order, circling the throne of deity.
Right. We find out that we're looking at the sun, the moon, and the stars. We have always thought, or the scientists have taught us that there's only one sun, but we are being told that there are many suns, in which and the worlds that are circling around the throne of what? Of God. And this is where we are saying this throne of God is the heavens of heavens. So it's very important, brethren, to understand these things. We like to just also understand, because there are some people who may not also understand where exactly is the heavens of heavens when we are on here on earth. We like to go down to the book Best, May 29, 1899, paragraph 1, so that we can understand about where this heaven of heaven is, in which all the worlds, the planets, the suns, they are all circulating around the what? The heavens of heavens, as we are taught.
I'll sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
Right?
Literal, in the uttermost north.
We know this. It was when the devil wanted to take over God. That is, he wanted to say, "I'll sit on the what? On the sides of the what? Of the north." That is, he wanted to take over the throne of what? Of God. So we're being told where the throne of God is, which is in the sides of the what? Of the north. Okay, let's continue.
Everybody knows that the further north he goes, the higher the north star appears.
Right?
From this each can learn that if stood at the North Pole, north would be directly over it.
Right?
North, therefore, is up.
Right?
God is the Most High, and therefore he dwells in the uttermost north.
Right. So we are being told that God does not just dwell anywhere. He dwells in the heavens of heavens. But where are the heavens of heaven? They are in the uppermost what? North. So this is where we are. Whenever you are on, or wherever you are, maybe on any planet, or we are on the planet Earth, if you would like to know where God is in the upper north. As you go in the what? In the north, this is where the heavens of heavens are. And let's hear more where it says, great is the Lord.
Same paragraph.
Yes, simple.
Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our in the mountain of his holiness.
Right?
Beautiful for situation. The joy of the whole earth.
Right?
Is Mount Zion. On the side of the north, literal, the uttermost north, the seat of the great king.
Right?
God is known in her palaces for a refuge.
So we are being told that Mount Zion is the joy of the whole earth. And we are being told that in reference to what are we being told? As to the throne of what? Of God, which is in the upper north, or in the sides of the what? Of the north. We can say much about the throne of God. I just want us to understand more so that we can really understand where Christ went after when he ascended on high. Let's go down where it says, promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west.
Promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west, nor from the south.
Right?
But God is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another.
Right?
Promotion comes not from the east, the west, nor the south.
Right?
Therefore it must come from the north. And since God alone is judge, to lift up and to put down,
right?
It follows that he dwells in the north.
So this is why when we get promotion, you hear some people saying, I have to do this and that for me to get some promotion. But we are being told that promotion cometh from the north. And where is the north? it comes from God, and we're finding that God dwells in the sides of the what? Of the north. So meaning wherever you are on the planet Earth, it's very clear to know where heavens of heaven is. It is in the north. Can we just hear this little aspect about it? There is a mystery about the north.
There is a mystery about the north. This is true even of this earth.
Right? So it says there is a mystery about the north. This is true even of this earth. Even on this earth, you will find that whenever you're looking at the compass and you find everything, the north plays a critical role. God has ordained it that there is always a mystery about the north. So the true north, we're not talking about the north, in the uppermost north, this is where the throne of God is. What happens?
The Hebrew word rendered north,
Right?
signifies secret.
So the Hebrew word rendered north, it signifies what? Secret. Meaning, where is the secret about the north? And we know the secret about the north. It is where the throne of God is. It is where Christ is at this present time. And it is from where, when we are talking about the second advent, that's where Christ will come from the heavens of heavens, which is in the sides of the north, to this earth. Let's hear more.
What is this attraction? This drawing power.
Right?
It is God.
Right. So you will find that even in a magnet, the magnet attracts in that what direction. And it says, even in the north, there is a drawing power. It means that when we are being taken up or we are going up to heaven, we need to be drawn up to the throne of what? Of God. You don't go to the throne of God, or people will not be able to go even the second advent. Don't be part of the second advent to make it in the second advent unless you are drawn up to the throne of God. So before we are drawn up for the second advent, we need to be drawn up to the things of God as we are living upon this earth. If you are not drawn up, or if you are not enjoying the truth of God, if the truth of God is repelling you, be sure again that even the second advent is going to repel you. Because when the second advent takes place, we are all being drawn up to the throne of what? Of God. And those who are drawn up are those that at this present time are willing to be drawn up by the things of God. Those who enjoy the word of God as being spoken, those who live the laws of God as they are being spoken, they are the ones whom God can draw to the north. So we can't get to the north unless God draws to you. That's what even Christ said to Peter, to his disciple. He said, unless the Father draws you to me, you cannot be my disciple. So to be a disciple to Christ, you must be drawn up in the north. So God knows that all those who will accept the messages and accept the truth and prepare for the second advent, they will finally be drawn up. We know we know when Christ was ascending to heaven. You remember, he went to Mount Zion, and to Mount Zion with his disciples, and then from Mount Zion he went to what? To Mount of Olives. Then from Mount of Olives, the scripture says he was taken up. That is, he was what? Drawn up by the power of what? Of God. So this is how it is that the north will be our place when we go for the second what? Advent. We can say more about the north, maybe just a little bit before we continue. Can you just read the next sentence?
Every manifestation of force is but the working of God.
Right.
Christ said of his crucifixion, if I be lifted up,
Right.
will draw all men unto me.
Right. So this is how it is. Christ here on earth, he needed to be lifted up. Then when he was lifted up, we know he said, I will draw all men to me. And when people are drawn by Christ, then as we have indicated, they are also drawn up to the throne of God. Right, we'll go down to finish this aspect about where God dwells so that we can go on with our study, where we go to SR, page 2, Shepherd's Road, or SR, volume 1, page 205, paragraph 1, which says, God's throne is in the north.
Right? God's throne is in the north.
Right?
One may point the north at any time from any part of the earth.
Right?
And the extreme end of each line would meet at the same point.
At the same point. You know, when we were growing up, we would be asked, what do you think is heaven? We'll actually point upward. And then someone asks you again during the day, say, where is heaven? You point up. Ask you in the night, you point up. But we didn't know that actually the earth, as the earth rotates, what is actually happening? Our positions are actually changing. So what we are pointing at in the morning and what we are pointing at night is actually changing. But it is clearly said that the earth rotates on its what? axis, meaning the axes are stationary. That is, there's the South Pole and the North Pole, they do not change. Wherever you are, when you point up towards the north, you know that this is where the throne of God is. This is where we have the heavens of heavens. This is where we have Christ leaving this earth and going into a far country. And why did he go into a far country? To receive a kingdom and then return. And when he returns with the what? With the kingdom, which we say is the joy of the what? Of the world. When he does return, we are hearing, he then draws the people to himself and he takes us again to the heavens of what? Of heavens. Can we just finish that one?
Had the so-called Christian pointed to the north, the answer would have been proper and in harmony with the Bible.
Exactly. So this is how it is. As Christians, when we are asked, where is your God? Where is the heavens of heaven? Where does God dwell? We now know clearly where God dwells. It dwells in the north. If you point in the north at any time, you are not in the wrong. But if you point in another direction, as it is being said, the positions are actually changing as the earth is rotating. We can say much about that, but can we go where it says the axis of the earth tilts in the slanting directions? Slanting direction.
Right. The axis of the earth tilts in a slanting direction in relation to its orbit.
Right.
If you point in another direction than north or south, at any time it would be either east or west.
Right.
In the daytime, pointing in any direction, except with the axis of the earth, we are pointing to the east.
We are pointing to the east.
The sun.
Right.
And at night to the west.
Right.
With no specific direction into space.
Exactly. So this is how clear it is. I just want us to finish that section with this one, which says there is no such thing as up and down in the space.
There is no such thing as up and down in the space.
Right. We used to, when we are growing, you think the up is this way. In the night, you think the up is this way. But God is saying there is nothing like that, which is saying up and down as we think. But what is true up and what is true down?
The only thing that would constitute up is the center of attraction.
Right.
God is throne.
So the center of attraction, which is making all these planets to circulate, all these universes to circulate, all the suns to circulate, as what being told, it is the throne of God. So this is what is the center of our attraction, even the very center, which would be a center even of our messages. Let's hear.
Down or south,
right,
is in the opposite direction from God's throne.
So when we say down, when you are from the throne of God, we are actually pointing to the south. When we say the angel came down, as we shall see, it means the direction is in the points down to the what? To the south. Okay, as we shall see.
The great celestial expanse.
Right.
The center of attraction is surrounded by island universes.
So the center of attraction of the throne of God is surrounded by island of universes. And it is this that we are referring to and saying, at the second coming, all these people will be gathered in heaven. What a homecoming that will be, brethren. We really need to be attracted by the things of God now, attracted by the truth of God now, so that we also have a privilege to be attracted heavenward when that time comes for the second advent. Can you close it?
The axis in each island universe, or suns, planets, and worlds, all point to one center of attraction.
Right.
God is throne.
God is throne. So that's all about, that's a little bit about the heavens of heavens. This is where Christ went. Now, we want now to talk about the earth, because we know that when Christ comes, he comes to this earth to take us home. Now, when we talk about the earth, God, when he talks about the earth, there are certain things that he usually wants us to understand. Usually he talks about the earth, talking about the four corners of the earth. If you remember, when we are talking about the river that went out of Eden, how did it go? It went into four directions. That is those four, north, south, and what? North, south, east, and what? And west. And when you talk about the children of Israel, when they were marching out from the land of Egypt, they were in the desert, they didn't just walk haphazardly. They were following those four positions again. You remember there was a standard for the Dan in the north, and the standard of these other tribes, as it was like that. It is the same, even if when you talk about Daniel chapter 11, where we learn about God talking about the truth, how the nations rule in this earth, referring to the king of the south, king of the north. Oh, those are the positions, and even of Daniel chapter 7, of Revelation chapter 7, where we hear God saying, hold the four wings, and meaning God was talking about the four corners of the earth. So God, when he talks about this earth, he has to do with these four corners of the what? Of the earth. These four corners of earth, they are very important even in the understanding of the message, even in the understanding of the truth. So this is what we like to check about these four corners of the earth, how the word of God and the has to do with this spreading of the gospel among the four corners of the earth. So we would like to read from this one, where we are learning about when God was creating this earth, how we know when God was creating this earth on the day 4, he created the sun, the moon, and stars. And from the lessons we have done, we knew that you know that he created the sun, moon, and stars to mark the days, the months, and the what? And the years. And we know those are the things that help us in keeping the feast. So we want to understand when God was creating the sun, how did he put it in place, so that we can really understand about the positions on earth, and so that we can understand about the second advent, because it will also have to do with these four corners of the what? Of the earth. So we would like to read into this book. This is December 4, 1855, page 77, which says, but all such reasoning is fallacious.
But all such reasoning is fallacious.
Mm-hmm.
For at the moment when the sun first appeared in the heavens,
Right?
from the most eastern point at which it could be seen,
Mm-hmm.
it would be just rising above the horizon.
Right. So here it's commenting about Genesis 1, verse 14, that when God was putting the sun in the stars, how could he, putting the sun in the sky and the stars and the moon, how did he actually do it? We are being told here that it could have appeared where? In the horizon. Let's hear more about it.
Hence, it is not unreasonable
Right.
to conclude that at that place in the east, perhaps the Garden of Eden.
So you are being told that when we are on earth and you hear this position, we have talked about the four positions: the south, the north, the what, the west, and the what, and the east. That when you hear about the position in the east, we are being told that it was at that place, perhaps the Garden of what? Of Eden, because we are told that even the Garden of Eden was in the Middle East. So meaning, when God was creating the sun, moon, and stars, and we have to actually see that way exactly the sun was. Let's go ahead.
Hence, it is not unreasonable to conclude that at that place in the east,
Right.
perhaps the Garden of Eden, where day begins the circuit of the globe,
Right?
the sun at its creation was just setting.
So we're being told that when does the day begin? It begins its circuit where? In the east. This is why we have the sunrise from the east to where? To the west. So a day with God begins in the what? In the east. If you were to check even in the worlds that we do, you check even in this world, you find that those people who are in the east, they are actually hours ahead than those persons who are in the what? Maybe in the west. So the reason being here that when God started to put the sun, it begins where? In the east. Or the day begins where? In the what? In the east, where the sun started. It's what? It's second. Let's go ahead.
This gives us a harmonious view of the Creator's work.
Right?
It began each day with evening,
Uh-huh.
and as it thus began on the fourth day, the sun, when first seen,
Right.
was just setting.
So when God said, let us make what, we created the sun, it is said that when the sun could have been first seen, it was actually one setting. Let's go ahead.
And as it continued its course westward,
Right?
it carried the sunset with it around the globe.
So this is what the sun does. It carries its course from the east to the where? To the west. As it goes from the east to the west, it carries its courses of what? Of sunlight. As it is now, the sun here is almost set in what? In Zimbabwe. But when you were to go to other places now, the sun here isn't what? Set. The reason is, as we are saying, when the sun started, it started in the east, and then it carries out its what? Its sunset as it goes to where? To the west. This is why we have different 30 hours, different hours of prayers for different places, different positions on the earth, is because of the issue in which the sun what? Begins. So we're learning out that the day begins where? In the east. Let's hear that.
And this view
Right.
that the day begins in the east
Right?
and so travels around the world
Uh-huh.
is of great importance.
So there is an important aspect that we need to capture here, brethren, that the day begins where? In the east. And then when in the east, it then goes all over the world. This is very, very critical when we are now talking about the second advent of what? Of Christ. Because this will show us our greater understanding about the issues of the East. Because as I've indicated, you remember when Elijah was being translated, God didn't just say, I will just translate where you are, Elijah. He had to go. Remember, Elisha said, I want to have double of your spirit. And Elijah said, if you have so, you must see me being taken up. And you remember, Elijah did several ways to try and escape what Elisha, and Elisha followed him up until Elijah had to go in a certain position where he was translated. God does not just translate people haphazard, wherever you are. This one is coming in this place, this one is coming from that place. No, God is very, very clear when it comes to the time of what? Of translation. This is what he did with Christ. Christ was not just taken up from any mountain. He went to Mount of what? Of Olives. So it is very, very clear that we really need to understand the issue or the essence of the East when it comes to the second advent, when it comes to the message that we actually have. Let's close with that one.
It takes away the objection that cannot keep the Sabbath unless we live in Palestine.
Right. So there are some others who say, we will not keep the Sabbath because maybe the day begins. No, this is why we say the Sabbath begins at sunset. Because your sunset, as you are, wherever you are, maybe in Canada, in the UK, my sunset here in Zimbabwe, they are different. Because the day begins in the west and continue in the east and continues to spread its sunset as it goes to the west. That's an important point that we have covered. I want us now to go to another aspect, which is we find it in GCP April 8, 1903. GCP April 8, 1903.
When Paul?
Yes, when we look at the spread of gospel. Remember, we said when we are talking about the issue, we're not talking about the issue of the earth, where how God looks at this earth. He has to do with the positions. And we have said the day begins where? In the east. So it should be also logical that the gospel, which also is like the light or is like the sun, should also begin in the east. So this is what we actually want to see, that the gospel that we preach, with gospel that we enjoy today, the gospel of Christ, where did it actually begin? So that we will know, because accordingly it should begin where the day begins. Where does the day begins? Accordingly, inspiration says day begins in the east. Let's hear what it says there. When we look at the spread of the gospel.
When we look at the spread of the gospel,
right,
we find that the gospel message began to be proclaimed in the east.
Right.
Pointing to a large map of the world here in Jerusalem.
Right. You don't even have a mistake where what we are talking about. We're not talking about the east. This is what the spiritual prophecy is saying. When we are talking about the east, we are talking about where? Jerusalem. And we are being told that when the gospel first began, it began where? In Jerusalem. Why? We now have an answer, because according to God, the day begins where? In the east. It was not logical for the gospel to begin in any other place, but it was supposed to begin where? In the east, where the day what? Begins. So that the people, so it was going to spread its word going where? Accordingly, as we have found, as the sun does, it spreads going to where? Its sunset going to the west. So this is what the gospel also was supposed to do when it begins in the east. It started to spread its way going up in those directions. Let's hear what it says.
The Lord said that from Jerusalem, the message of truth was to go to Samaria.
Right.
And from there to the ends of the earth.
That's what it is. So the gospel, brethren, began where? In the east. When it begins in the east, it spread its way throughout the earth. Can you go ahead?
By tracing the history of the work of the apostles, as recorded in the book of Acts,
right,
we find that the gospel first preached in Jerusalem and afterwards carried into Samaria, was proclaimed by the great apostle Paul in many cities of Asia Minor.
You cannot have a mistake. We will not emphasize more on that one, because God is very clear that when he looks upon the earth, when Christ was when he entered into the holy place in AD 31, he received his material kingdom. God was very clear as to where that material kingdom was to start from. he said it started from the east and then it spread. It was supposed to spread to the whole world. This is how it is. So when we're preaching about also the second advent, which you are saying the kingdom of glory, it should also be very clear that it should begin where the day begins. So it begins where the day begins. Where is it? It is in the east. We shall find out as we go, because this is our topic about the second advent. Now we just want to rush to 127, just on top there, 127 paragraph 9, which says, but the truth was to be still west. But the truth was to go still further west.
Right. But the truth was to go still further west.
Uh-huh.
We find the last Reformation,
Right.
the three messages, which are to prepare the world for the coming of the Lord, first advanced and proclaimed in the Western Hemisphere,
Right.
in the New World.
So this was an indication that truth started from Jerusalem and it went further, until it reached what? The west. And we are being told where the three angels' messages began. We have been learning about the three angels' messages. We have been learning about the messages of Revelation chapter 18 and Revelation chapter 14. Right? Can we just say we could not? We could not go.
Same paragraph.
Yes, same paragraph. Okay, it says, we could not go much further west than we have gone. When you are where the third ranges message started in the land of America, you can't go even any further west. That's all about that's the furthest west. And you know that when you go further west, the next thing you see the sun again, you don't see it in the west. You see it where again? In the east. So this is how God is saying. So I have said much about the earth. That's how God views the positions of the what? Of the earth, even from heaven, and he has told us when the day what begins. Now, pertaining now to the second advent, we know that the message of the second advent, being a message that has to do with the times and the seasons. As this was being told in 1 Thessalonians 5 says, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, we have no need that I write unto you. Knowing that Paul knew that when he was teaching this message of the second advent, he told them that the important thing for you to understand the message of the second advent is to know times and seasons. And you will find that for you to understand times and seasons, you will also need to understand the positions of the what? Of the earth. You also need to understand the issues of the what? The sun, moon, and what? And stars, because that's what they were given. And you have to also understand the messages of the feast. So, for the second advent to be taught, Paul was very clear that there was a need of understanding times and what? And seasons. Why did Paul say this? He said to the people in Thessalonians again, it is not given to you to proclaim the message of the second advent. Why did he say that? That's 2 Thessalonians 2. He says, because something was to happen before the second one, advent. What was it that was to happen? 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1 to 3. What does it say? Now I beseech you.
Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ,
Right.
and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind,
Right.
or be troubled, neither by spirit,
Right.
nor by word, nor by letter as from us,
Right.
as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you
Right.
by any means, for that day shall not come,
Right.
except there come a falling away
So
first.
Paul is very, very clear that there is the people of Thessalonians, or the people that lived in the first advent, or the apostles, they were not allowed to proclaim the message of the second advent, because something was yet to come. What was it that was to come, brethren? It was the falling away first. So when the falling away first come, and then the man of sin is revealed, then can we talk about the second one? Advent. So they were not allowed to preach about the second advent because it was not the gospel then. But so the gospel today, when we now preach about the second advent, is because God now knows that He has restored. He was going to restore this message of the second advent by giving us the times and the seasons. Remember, from Desire Ages, we read that when we are talking about the second advent, it is based on the prophecies. The prophecies that relate to the second advent. So we see that when the falling away took place, which we know was the Dark Ages, and when the times and the seasons were changed, which led to the second advent, and the people of God lost them. We know that people today, they follow a very different calendar. They tell you that the year begins in 1 January. They tell you that the day begins at midnight. They tell you so many things which are very weird, which they have obtained from the men of sin. But when we see people who are preparing for the second advent, they must be knowing the times and the seasons properly. So it means that the prophecies of the second advent are therefore the prophecies that will actually teach the people of God how to restore the times and seasons and the feasts, and thus make the people of God ready for the second what? Advent. Let us hear the prophecies that will be explored, or which actually explored, that relate to the second advent, which are based on which book. We like to go to EGWC, page 570, paragraph 5. EGWC 570, paragraph 5.
All classes of second advent believers agree that the angel brought to view in the sixth and the seventh verses of this chapter represent the advent message to the church and to the world.
So it's very, very clear here, brethren, that we're not talking about the second advent. You don't just dream about it. You really have to know the prophecies. And what are the prophecies that the second advent believers need to be well versed with? The prophecies of Revelation chapter 14. What do we find in Revelation chapter 14? We find that there are how many angels? If this is true, right,
then all five of the angels brought to view in this chapter represent five distinct messages prior to the second advent.
So this is what it means, brethren. When we now have this message, we are actually knowing that in Revelation 14 there are five angels' messages, and it is said these are the prophecies that relate to the second advent. Otherwise, we have seen how these are because these prophecies are restoring the truth or the times and the seasons, and also the knowledge about the positions of the earth and the knowledge about how God regards them, so that they are prepared to meet with God. Remember, we've said that when you are going up, or you are boarding an aeroplane, you don't just board it from your home. You have to go to an airport. Everyone knows that. So it means that even people, when they are going to heaven, they must be a ready spot where they need to be. But how are we going to learn about these things? It is embedded in the prophecies of the second advent. And what are the prophecies? The five angels' messages of Revelation chapter 14. Let us hear what the three angels' messages, which you have seen that was established in the east, what did it say about this second advent of what? Of Christ. Let us hear from this book, which is FSG 405. FSG 405, paragraph 2, which says, in this time there will be many.
In this time there will be many thunders and mysterious voices, understood by the redeemed, but not by the wicked.
So it's saying towards the second advent, when God is drawing his people to him, there will be many mysterious voices and thunders which will not be understood by the wicked. Hey, brother, if you are not caught up, you are not drawn up by this message of five angels' messages, there is also a danger that we will hear mysterious voices and thunders, and you not know what they are saying. But it is being said that the wicked will not understand it, but will understand.
Among them will come these words from the Father about the exact day and hour that the Savior will appear.
So you say, brethren, at this particular time when we are saying God, when he reveals the time which he will draw his children from all the worlds, from this earth, he will actually reveal it in a form that those who are not attracted by the message of Christ, the message of even of times and seasons now, the message of the five angels of Revelation, they will only hear mysterious voices and thunders. But the saints will actually understand that the day in which Christ will appear and the hour in which he will appear is this one. So those who say that day will take us as a thief and we will not know, they have not understood the prophecies of Revelation 14. If you have understood the prophecy of the second advent, you understand that that day will be announced, meaning we will actually know when exactly Christ is actually what to come. But the wicked will not know, for they will only hear mysterious and thunder, mysterious voices and thunder. So, brethren, the time is now that we hear the message of God about the second one, Advent. Let's hear. This surely harmonizes.
This surely harmonizes completely with the word of God.
This is very clear. You remember even when Christ was here on earth in the first Advent, he said, Father, glorify your name. And you remember in John chapter 12, there was a voice that spake from heaven. And the wicked said, oh, it actually thundered. Eh? But actually God communicated and said, I have glorified your name. Eh? I have glorified your name and will glorify it again. This is what God said. But the wicked, what could they only understand? It was thunder. So, brethren, we are living in the time when we are praying for the second advent, and we are living in this time, we really need to understand the prophecies of the second advent, be attracted by them, and understand them, and live in them, so that we are people who will hear when God tells us the exact day and the exact hour. Remember, if God is going to tell us the exact day and the exact hour, remember where does the day begins? It begins where? In the east. So it means when people don't actually know, when we actually know when the day and the hour of Jesus is coming, for us to actually to be the first ones to actually see Christ coming or that day coming, we must be where? We find out in the east where the day what begins. So this is what one of the issues that was brought forth by the third angel's message. Now we also want to hear more about what the third angel's message brought in the aspect of this what second advent, which we are talking about, and in relation to the four corners of the earth. Now we'd like to go into this book, which is Daystar, March 14, 1846. Daystar, March 14, 1846. Remember, we have shown that the second Christ, the second coming of Christ will actually be proclaimed. Will be actually be told the day and the hour. We will not be left in darkness because we know the times, and God will actually proclaim. And those who have enjoyed the prophecies of the second advent, they will actually follow and actually hear what God is saying. But let us hear what will actually happen here. Can you go? It's a long paragraph. We'll not read all of it. When you get time, you also go through it. I want us to go down inside into the middle of the paragraph. It said, and I saw Jesus rise up in the holiest.
And I saw Jesus rise up in the holiest.
Right.
And as he came out, we heard the tinkling of bells.
Right.
And knew our high priest was coming out.
Right. We already know that Christ at this present time as we are talking, he is in the most holy place. And we have been told that he went into the far, what country, which we have explained, the heaven of heavens in the north. And we are told that that country, in that place, Christ being the most holy place, he is there interceding for us. He is there interceding so that we actually put on the characters that are worthwhile, that we might hear him. And he says, when time came, the bells of Christ could be heard when he was living out the what? The holy place, the most holy place. Let's go on.
Then we heard the voice of God,
right,
which shook the heavens and earth, and gave the 144,000 the day
right,
and hour of Jesus coming.
Like we said, that voice of God is just prior before Jesus comes into this one, in this earth. It gives the day and the hour of Jesus coming to the saints. Right. And we're being told the group here being the 144,000. Let's hear more.
Then the saints were free.
Then the saints were what? Were free.
United and full of the glory of God.
Right.
For he had turned their captivity.
Right.
And I saw a flaming cloud,
right,
come where Jesus stood.
Yeah.
And he laid off his priestly garment and put on his kingly robe.
Right.
Took his place on the cloud which carried him to the east,
right,
where it first appeared to the saints on earth.
So do we hear that, brethren? What really happens? Christ in the sides of the north. Take note of our study in the sides of the north, which is where in the heavens of what? Of heavens. What really happens when he comes for the second advent? They come a chariot which carries Christ to which position? To the position of the east, where the day one begins. Are we getting the issue? So it carries Christ where? Into the what? Into the east. What is interesting when it carries Christ into the east, the first people to see the beginning of that glorious day of the second advent are the saints. Not everyone else. The wicked are not seeing it because some are not even willing to live wherever they are. They've stayed wherever they are. But the saints have moved to a position where they are the first to see Christ. But the position where you can actually be the first to see that day is when you are in the east. So this is where Christ is carried where? Into the east. But remember, if Christ was to come down to this earth, he will not need to go to the east, because when he comes down, he will, like we've indicated, that the sides of the north is the heaven of heavens is in the sides of the what of the north, which is in the north, and down from the north is actually what south. So it means that if Christ was to come to this earth, he will come directly and touches the south. But no, it should not be like that. He is carried to where? To the east. Why to the east? Because this is where the day begins, and this is where the saints are to be gathered, to be the first ones to see Christ. Are you following this, brethren? Are we actually moving with times? That third angel's message is saying you should be in the east in order for you to be the first one to see Christ when he comes at the second advent. So it's very, very clear as to what is expected of us. Let's go ahead.
A small black cloud,
Right.
which was the sign of the Son of Man.
Uh-huh.
While the cloud was passing from the holiest
Right.
to the east, which took a number of days.
So when the cloud is passing from the east, from the north, remember, and Christ is in the sides of the north, passing to the east, it takes several days because that's a very big place. And when it gets to the east, what is happening to the saints on earth?
The synagogue of Satan worshipped at the saints.
So the saints are not scattered. The one in the mountains, the other one is there. The saints are actually gathered in one place. And the wicked, what do? They are worshipping while that preparation is taking place in heaven. So that Christ comes to where? To the east. When he gets to the east, what happens? He then is the first to be seen by the saints. Heaven is very specific. He doesn't go to the south, no. He doesn't go to the west, no. He goes to the east. Therefore, the scriptures of the second advent should actually show us that the joy of the saints, or the saints they need to be to receive the joy of the word of the whole earth, which is the kingdom, they really need to be in the east. And Christ will not disappoint them, as he has indicated. Christ is clear that come to the feast or come to the east. This is where I will meet you. So it's very, very clear, brethren, when we are preparing for this second advent, that the message that you are following today. We learned that it happened that in 1880 the church fell from this procedure because the church was supposed to be keeping on preparing to go up until it goes to the east. But this is not that's not what happened. The church enjoys to stay where? In the west. Yet the scripture is very clear that when Christ comes the second advent, he must find the church where? In the east. For they are the first ones to see Christ. Remember, if they are in the west, they cannot be the first one to see Christ. Because the day does not begin where? In the west. It begins where? In the east. So we really need to begin with God. Even the gospel needs also to begin with what? With God. Like when it began in the east, and again in the final end it should do the same. Let us hear more about that voice of God which shakes the heavens and earth, where exactly that voice of God proclaims it, is proclaimed from. Because we are now concerned, because the saints are supposed to be found in the east. But how are the saints going to get to the east? We want to hear more that the voice that gives us the day and the hour of Jesus Christ. Where is it proclaimed? Right. Let us read Joel chapter 3 verse 16. Or that's where to a little flock, if you have it, page 4.2, which says, the Lord also shall roar.
The Lord also shall roar out of Zion,
Right?
and utter his voice from Jerusalem.
Very clear, brethren. The Lord will not roar from anywhere. Where does he roar? He roar from Zion and utter his voice from where? From Jerusalem. And the saints are already in the east, and they hear God's voice, and he tells them the day and the hour of Jesus coming. But we know at this particular time, all the saints will not be yet gathered there. It will only at least be the 144,000, and even some of the and the what and the worship. But
And the heavens and the earth shall shake.
right,
But the Lord will be the hope of his people.
yes, the Lord will be the hope of his people. So the people of God, they are actually moving with the prophecies of God. That when the voice of God roars, it roars from Jerusalem, and they need also to be ready in Jerusalem, to actually hear that message from what? From God. Can you go down and say the voice of God, that is to shake the heavens and earth.
The voice of God, that is to shake the heavens and the earth, comes out of Zion,
Right?
and is uttered from Jerusalem. But
So we see that that's what is happening. We are very, very clear that the prophets are pointing that the voice of God is uttered from Jerusalem. Ellen White is saying the saints were the first to see what Christ, while in the east. Right. Let's go down where again we want to hear more about this, which tells us about the people of God that when God makes up the covenant, or when he makes them, that voice rose from Jerusalem to make up the covenant, give the day of Jesus coming, the people of God shall be actually in their own land. We want to hear from that, from inspiration. Can we go to Park, May 27, 1897, page 325, paragraph 5. Here
with the conclusion of the whole matter.
Right. This verse is commenting on Jeremiah chapter 31, where God is saying, in those days I will make a covenant with my people. And you know that covenant is not yet made. And God is saying that covenant is made up at the voice of God, where this voice rose from Jerusalem. When the voice rose from Jerusalem, want to hear when God makes the covenant, the people of God, where are they actually when that happens? Here
with the conclusion of the whole matter.
Right.
With the making of the new covenant, the days of exile and captivity are ended.
God, when he makes this new covenant, brethren, with his church, the house of Israel, at this present time, the days of exile are ended. When you are still in the UK, when you are still in the West, you are still in Zimbabwe, God is still saying the days of exile and captivity are not yet what? Ended. And he cannot make the covenant while you are there, because the voice rose from Jerusalem. So he says the days of exile should be complete when he makes up the what? The covenant. Let's quiet.
And God's people dwell in his unveiled presence forevermore.
Right, and God's people, they have been called to dwell in the presence, in the sides of the north, that is, dwell in the east, the presence of God, which is the throne of what? Of God, as we have seen, and in his presence.
That covenant remains yet to be made.
So that covenant, brethren, this is what the inspiration is saying. The covenant that is yet to be made. This is why me and you are still in the exile. When the message was rejected and the church fell in 1888, they rejected this message of Wacona and Jones, which was to bring the moral and ceremonial law, which was to bring the people of God and the exile of the people of God, bring them to their own land. Let's hear what he says.
Yet by living faith,
right,
all its blessings may now be enjoyed.
Right.
Even as the power of the resurrection, by which God's people are finally established in their own land.
Right? Do you see that, brother? When that happens, when the covenant is being made, the people of God should be established in their own land. And the own land of the people of God, we know, the heritage that God has given to his children, it is in the east. We actually now, can you finish that one, and so that we go on?
Is the power by which they are prepared for that glorious day.
Yeah. So this is when Ellen White, before he died, and even the other messengers died, Wacona and Jones, they were they were actually waiting for the making up of this covenant, in which this covenant is made when the people of God are in their own land, as they have indicated. So they knew that their stay in the West was not to be prolonged. In America, was not to be prolonged. They knew where they were supposed to go. So they gave a counsel pertaining that to the headquarters of the church, that the church needed to take heed, which we need to take heed today. What did they say? This is a Review and Herald, August 11, 1903. What does it say?
If after a time the Lord says, move away from Washington, right? We must move.
That's what the Lord says. If the Lord after a time says, move away from Washington, or move away from where the headquarters are in the east, we should be able to move. Remember, the headquarters are in the west. We should be able to move. Where do we move to? We have already been told. Because the people of God, when the covenant is made, they should be in the east. Not only should be for the covenant, even when Christ comes, the second advent, they should be in the east. For they are the first ones to see Christ when he appears from the east. What does it say?
When the Lord tells us to move,
right,
we are to obey.
When the Lord tells us to move, we are to obey. Are people obeying? God is telling us now that is the time when we really need to move. How are we moving? We are moving by following the messages of the word of the feast and going to the east 3 times in a year to worship what God, as he has commanded us. And in that, we are being prepared so that we can move the headquarters from the 2-horned beast, to where it should actually be in the last days. And what are we've been told that when God rose from Jerusalem and his truth goes to all the world, we are in the east.
However inconvenient and inconsistent such a command may seem to us.
So that command usually is not just convenient. It is not just consistent even to the human thinking. You think when you are being told that wherever you are, right from America, right from UK, right from Zimbabwe, South Africa, wherever you are, you really need to move to the east to go and worship God 3 times a year. That's not convenient. That's not consistent. Eh? But God says, when he says it's time to move, we need to move. Otherwise, when that time for God to proclaim the day and the hour of Jesus coming makes his covenant, you only hear mysterious voices and thunders wherever you are, in all over places of the world. So the time is now, God is saying, it will be a time through his message to move where? To where we will really actually keep the feast. And God is now preparing us by giving us a message of feast, which requires us to move 3 times into the year to where the voice of God will be proclaimed in Zion and what? In Jerusalem. Can we? Then some may now stand up and say, if the things are like that, Ellen White actually told us that you should not go back to old what? Jerusalem. You know what is written in Early Writings, page 74. So why do you think we should go to Jerusalem before Christ comes in the second advent? Ellen White says that is a wrong idea. We should not go to Jerusalem. But Ellen White, when we read Early Writings, page 74, she was very clear that was under the third angel's message. Meaning the third angel's message did not have the ability to move the people to the place of the east. So she is saying, under the third angel's message, it's not yet time for the people to move in. But let us hear when the prophecies are fulfilled, when we have the 5 angels' messages, what does she say in A3, 81? In the closing. In
the closing proclamation of the gospel,
right?
When special work is to be done for classes of people hitherto neglected, God expects his messengers to take particular interest in the Jewish people whom they find in all parts of the earth.
Right.
As the Old Testament scriptures are blended with new in an explanation of Jehovah's eternal purpose, this will be to men of the Jews as the dawn of a new creation, the resurrection of the soul. As they see the Christ of the gospel, his dispensation portrayed in the pages of the Old Testament scriptures, and perceive how clearly the New Testament explains the Old. Their slumbering faculties will be aroused. And they will recognize Christ as the Savior
of the world. Do you see that? So we are seeing that under the third angel's message, it wasn't the closing proclamation of the third angel's message. We saw even in the lessons which we did, it was simply 3 angels' messages. We still have 5. We still have the angel of Revelation chapter 18. So we saw that it wasn't the closing proclamation of the gospel. But she was clear that under the closing proclamation of the gospel, the word of God will actually cover even the whole world and cover even those that are in the east. And they will actually be aroused into unto this truth and accept Christ as their Savior. If you read it, Early Writings, page 7, she says, it will take thousands, several of years to make those people in the east to just believe in the first advent of Christ. What about the second? But she knew that the third angel doesn't have the capacity to make that. But under the fullness of the gospel, then we now have the capacity to make them, their slumbering faculties, to be aroused so that they take into the work of God. And what are we told here? Among the Jews,
among the Jews are some who, like Saul of Tarsus, are mired in the scriptures. And this will proclaim with wonderful power the immutability of the law of God.
That's what it's saying. Among the Jews, there are some who are like the Paul of Tarsus. Remember how Paul was. Who, when they are raised up, when they see this message, remember, they see this message, which is a 5 angels message. They see the message of the moral law and the statutes being blended together. What will they do? They will actually come in and do the work. Remember, what is very interesting is this, that God made it very clear that before the second advent, the Jews will actually prepare the people of God for the second advent. Did you know that? Let's hear what God said. Because this is why the people of God in the last days, they will be gathered where? In the east, before the second advent. Why? Because they are, the people in the east, you have a Jude, for it says, for in Judah, God is what is known. That's what the scripture says. And when you go there, you will find that you come the Sabbath, the law of God is kept as it is. No one is working on Sabbath. Come the feast days, you find they're actually keeping all what God, the laws of God that are written there. And Inspiration 1 to here says, before the second advent, the people of God must be prepared by them. We know their greatest mistake, it says, it was their rejection of Christ. But we know that the greatest mistake of the Christian is the rejection of the law of God. So who can teach them the law of God? In Judah, God is known. The law of God is known. So we now want to see Inspiration saying in the closing work, before Christ comes, they play work. Which means me and you need to be in position. Don't dream that Christ will just drop from the sky and come to where you are now. No, he needs you to be prepared for the second advent. Just like he needed John to prepare the people, he proclaimed Christ for 3.5 years to prepare the people for the material kingdom. You didn't just allow people to just think that they are ready. They needed to be prepared. So God also wants us to get prepared for the second advent. And he says, the people in the east, in Zion and in Jerusalem, they will play a part in preparing the people of God for that. Let us see what it says. That is AV, page 579, paragraph 1. Converted Jews in the closing work.
Converted Jews in the closing work.
Right?
There will be men converted from among the Jews.
Right?
And these converts will aid in preparing the way of the Lord.
Take it again, my brother. Do you know what he's saying?
There will be men converted from among the Jews.
There will be many converted among the what? The Jews.
And these converts will aid in preparing the way of the Lord.
Inspiration is very clear that the coming of Christ will be prepared by these converts. So unless they are converted into this truth, it means that the people of God cannot be ready for the second advent, because they have a part to play. And this is why the people of God are expected to, in these last days, they need to be where? In the east, where they will actually get this preparation, as God has indicated. Those who have seen how the Sabbath is kept in Judah and in Jerusalem, when they go to their different countries, we really know how to keep the Sabbath. So you hear people saying, and we keep the Sabbath, while among the heathen nations, you see that we actually don't know how to keep the Sabbath. But when you get there, you learn how to keep the law. As we learn how to keep the law, they learn about Christ, because their greatest mistake was to reject Christ. Ours is on the law of God. Since the man of sin, he has changed those times and what? And laws. Right, can we go down?
And making straight in the desert a highway for our God.
Right?
Converted Jews are to have an important part to act in the great preparation to be made in the future to receive Christ.
That is very interesting. If you are to receive Christ, you really know that the people in the east have a part to work. Do not have a part to work while you are in the west, you are in the south, you are in wherever you are. You really have to be where they are. This is why God is saying in this letter there will be that home gathering for his people. And this is what is very clear from Ellen White saying, yes, under the 30 message, it was not proper to go to Jerusalem. We see those under the 30 message saying, we're going to Jerusalem, we're going to see the tomb, we're going to do this. We say, who told you to go there? Because under the 30 message is not proper. But when you ask, why do we go now? We tell you, it is now the fullness of the gospel. It is now under the 5 angels' messages. It is when then we are actually approved by God to go and appear before him. So this is so wonderful, brethren, as well, being prepared for that great event in the east. Now, it becomes of much interest then that what then will make the people of God to go to the east? Because even the third angel message didn't have any view about it. What will take us to the east? Because we have seen that before the second advent, there will be a voice from Jerusalem. We have seen that the saints, Christ appears right first from the east. We have also even seen that the people of God, when God makes the covenant, they must be in their own land. So it means with these things, they should be fulfilled. Therefore, the question then, one which we have is, how then do we get to the promised land? We want to hear, did not Ellen White, while she was alive, didn't she not tell us what was to help us to get to the east, to get to where the heritage of Jacob is? Let's go to Maranatha, page 245, paragraph 3.
Right. I saw that we sensed and realized but little of the importance of the Sabbath. To what we yet should realize and know of its importance and glory.
So she is saying, brethren, we have taught the Sabbath for many years, but we don't really understand about its importance and its glory. What is it that is embedded there? I saw that.
I saw we knew not what it was, yet to write upon the high places of the earth.
So she is saying, under the third angel's message, under the issue of the Sabbath, people don't know what it is to write upon the high places of the earth. People love Isaiah 58 verse 13 and they say, make sure your feet does not go this way on the Sabbath. Do not do that. But they don't go to verse 14, which then tells us when you keep the Sabbath, the next event is to ride upon the high places of the earth. The message, Isaiah is very clear. If the Seventh Advent, if as a church we are actually under which we are saying we're not keeping the Sabbath of following Isaiah 58 verse 12, then we should also be willing to follow verse what? Verse 13. Verse 13 says we should ride upon the high places of the what? Of the earth. So she says we don't know yet what it means under the third angel's message. Let's go ahead.
I saw we knew not what it was yet to write upon the high places of the earth,
Right.
and to be fed with the heritage of Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
But when the refreshing and the latter rain shall come from the presence of the Lord,
Right.
and the glory of his power, we shall know what is to be fed with the heritage of Jacob,
Right.
and write upon the high places of
No,
the earth.
please take it again so that we can enjoy that. It's saying, it's telling, Ellen White is actually saying what will make us to understand what it is to write upon the high place of the earth. We know the heritage of Jacob. You cannot say the heritage of Jacob is where you are among the heathen nations. The heritage of Jacob is very clear. He was given the land of what? Of Canaan. So that heritage of Jacob and being the high places of the land of Canaan, they are all known. That's Jerusalem is the highest place. So what he's saying here, you have to write upon the high places. That's what Micah says. Are not the high places of Judah, Jerusalem. So we know that these are the high places where the saints should learn to go and write there under the latter rain. Brethren. So the latter rain of the third angel, the latter rain should teach us what it is to write upon the high places of the what? Of the earth. If you say, I have the letter rain, I ask you, do you now know what it is to write upon the high places of the earth? And if you say, I don't know, then I say, I know that you have got just fake letter rain. Because when you have got proper letter rain, inspiration is saying you should be knowing what it means to write upon the high places of the earth and be fair to the heritage of Jacob. This is what we saw when the inspiration wrote that at that time when God makes up the covenant, our captivity among the nations will be over. And what will actually be happening? He himself, you will leave us be in our own land. That's what the scripture is saying. Let's hear what it says here.
Then shall we see the Sabbath more in its importance and glory.
I want you to take again the issue that will make us know about the letter rain. I saw that.
I saw we knew not what it was yet to write upon the high places of the earth,
Right.
and to be fed with the heritage of Jacob.
So that's very clear, and the third angel is not known. But when the refreshing and the latter rain shall come from the presence of the Lord, and the glory of his power, we shall know what it is to be fed with the heritage of Jacob and write upon the high places of the earth. So, brethren, we know that the message of the latter rain has come. When the church fell in 1888 and rejected the message of Revelation chapter 18, God did not just leave it like that. What did he do? He made a way, and he allowed them to go. He allowed us to go in hunger for about 40 years, as the prophecies show. And about 1929, the message of the latter rain came with the fourth angel's message. What did the message of the latter rain? We know the message of the latter rain is the message of Revelation chapter 7, where we are learning about the angel coming from where? From the east. Remember, brethren, we are saying the next thing or the next question which was among the brethren when Ellen White died was to look at how will they get to the east. How will they get to the heritage of Jacob? Then we see that the angel then that follows the fourth angel's message is the angel from the east, which therefore teaches about the latter rain and teaches us what it means to ride upon the what? High place of the earth. We want to hear what does the angel say about the east. Can we go to the timely greetings? Are we there?
Yes.
Right. Can you go to the timely greetings where it says, this is a comment about the Feast of Tabernacles, which God expects his people to keep where? In the appointed place. It's that's Zechariah chapter 14, commenting on verse 19. What does it say, verse 19?
This shall be the punishment of Egypt,
Right?
the punishment of all nations,
Right?
that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
God is saying, this is what the latter rain message is saying. Don't think it is going to say, let's go and be established this. It's telling you that if we do not keep the Feast of Tabernacles, or therefore the Feast of God, where in Jerusalem, you don't just keep them in wherever you are. You go to this place and in that place, in many places, many other places where they keep this feast. God is saying, no, the Feast of Tabernacles must be kept in Jerusalem. Those nations that don't keep it there, what will happen in these last days before Christ comes? They'll be punished. So what does it say here? Again we see.
Again, we see the necessity of forsaking our preconceptions of the final work of the gospel.
People have very, very terrible preconceptions about the final work of the gospel. Some will tell you that Christ will drop from the sky while you're now seated. Now he will just come in and people will just be taken to heaven. Those are just terrible misconceptions of how Christ is to come. It's very clear that how Christ comes. We will not have any doubt as to when he is coming. The day is announced. We are in place. We are in the east. Everything is clear. The prophecies are fulfilled. So he's saying, me and you must have to change what we have ever thought for years. And take a clear understanding that when God says we move, we have to move. And what does it say?
No, the Lord will not drop upon the world like a bolt from the sky.
So this is not what the Lord will do, brethren. He will not drop like a what? A bolt of what? Fire from the sky to the earth. No, not like that. Because if you were to do that, the people in the prophecies are out of what? Out of place. So he must come properly. And the prophecies, he comes in line with prophecies. You remember Christ when he ascended on high. He came to the disciples and he found them doubting about himself. He didn't say, I'm the Christ, man. You should believe me. No, he never said that. He took them from the prophecies of Moses, the Psalms and everything, and taught them what those prophecies have said about them. And it said that when they understood the prophecies, they also understood about Christ. It is the same thing here. You don't talk about the same kind and say you drop like a bolt in the sky and you are with Christ now. And anytime, brethren, and at night, at noon, at what he will come. No. That's not the gospel. We have to change those preconceived what ideas, understand how Christ comes. We are seeing how he comes. We must first have the joy of the whole earth. Which is where people of God are gathered where? In the sides of God. They are gathered where? In the east. They are prepared. They enjoy the message of the rain. They are taught how to keep the law of God. Thus they have that joy of the old. When you read according to Isaiah, they have the excellent issues of the kingdom where they are staying, where the lion shall never eat the lambs, and it will be a nice place. That joy of the earth must be first felt before the second advent. It doesn't drop from the sky. If you think it dropped from the sky, you show us the prophecies. We don't know those prophecies which say that. The prophecies are very clear that people of God in these last days must be found worshiping God 3 times. Where they should be worshiping God in the Feast of Tabernacles. Unless they do that, God is saying they will be punished because they are not teaching, they are not preparing for the second advent. Because second advent is very clear. Let's hear.
He will first magnify his word.
God will first magnify his word.
His power.
His power.
His righteousness.
His righteousness.
And his church.
His church. And this is what we're saying. Before Christ comes, he brings this joy of the world earth. That is, he magnifies his truth. If you read in other prophecies, those wonderful or those good days will come when I will raise unto David a righteous branch, when Judah shall dwell safely and Jerusalem shall. Those are good days, which is the very joy of the earth. God must magnify his truth, magnify his church, magnify his people, and then the event then that follows is what, according brethren, he can come. So before that, you don't have prophecies that show that. Right?
He is also to have, as it were, an act of surfeit,
right?
Into which to gather his elect and shield them.
This is what it is. He will have an act of surfeit, where he must gather his people, shield them even from the 7 last plagues before even he comes. So don't dream. Let us not dream while in those lands and say, I'm not leaving this place. I was born here. This. No. For those who will make it, they will need to go to where the ark of safety is, which is the kingdom. And that is in the east. And there they will be prepared even by the Jews, prepared by the converted Jews, prepared for the second what? Advent. That's what the inspiration is saying. That's what we are reading from the scriptures. And this is what really has to happen before Christ what? Comes.
All these facts, you see, are vividly borne out in this prophecy.
Right? So we have seen that the angel from the angel of Revelation chapter 7, the angel from the east or the latter rain is very clear about the coming of Christ, saying he will not drop like a bolt of fire in the what? In the sky. He will actually do it the nice way. And the nice way is what is pointed out in the prophecies. Okay, let's hear more in other prophecies what Christ is going to do before his second what? His second advent. This one is based on Ezekiel chapter 23, from Ezekiel chapter 36 from verse 23 to 26, where we learn what God will do for his people. And that is found in track 2TG number 3, 2TG number 3, page 6.1.
Right? And I'll sanctify my great name,
right,
which was profaned among the heathen,
right,
which ye have profaned in the midst of them.
right,
And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, says the Lord God,
right,
when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes.
right. So before Christ comes, there is this joy of the whole earth. The heathens, east, west, all directions, they should actually see God's name being magnified and glorified. When among the heathens, among the nations like this, God is saying, my name is not being glorified. My name is not being sanctified. Come Sabbath, you don't keep it properly. Come this, you don't. We are polluted by this and that. And we are polluting his name when we are not keeping even his laws. And he says, that will not happen. Before he comes, the second advent, Christ wants his people to show that, to magnify his name. Otherwise, the devil will claim that God was not able to make his people keep his law here on earth, be ready. So he took them to heaven. So God is not saying that. He's saying they must hear in the east, in their own land, before the second advent, and the heathens can see, and the devil can see, and the world can see, be able to be keeping the law of what? Of God. And what is that law of God? We are told it is the law of statutes and what? And judgments. And he will give us a new heart. You will finish the verse, but I want us to go where it says, plain down there. Plain it is to see that before I.
Yes. Plain it is to see that before you and I can be read for translation,
right,
we must first be ready to go into the promised land.
Brethren, I hope you are getting that. He's saying, this is the angel from the east, which Ellen White promised us when he comes and brings the latter rain. He is to teach us what it means to what? To enjoy the heritage of what? Of Jacob. What is the angel is saying? Before you can talk about the second advent, brethren, you should be willing to first go into the promised land. Why? Because it's very clear. This is where we're prepared. This is where Christ first comes. When he comes, he sees, we are the first to see him. This is where the voice of God also is proclaimed. The day and the hour is coming, rose from Zion and Jerusalem. So he's saying, before you can talk about the second advent, brethren, talk about going first to the promised land. So if you have thought, man, if Christ will drop from the sky and this, now it's time to change things, brethren. And know that, look for the message, look for the way which will take you to the east, first to the promised land, to see the promised land and to be prepared for the second advent. Can you take it again from the plain it is?
Plain it is to see that before you and I can be read for translation,
right, we
must first be ready to go into the promised land, there to be cleansed, there to have our stone hearts removed.
We don't just go to heaven like that. I'll jump to heaven as we think. We need to have the removal of this stone heart, the heart that enjoys evil. It must be removed. And that operation, when someone does operation, I have never seen person is operated in his own home. There is a theater, place with lights and everything that is prepared, right, to make sure and all the equipment is there and the way operation is done. And God is clear as to where the operation is done of this stone heart. It is not done among the heathen nations. No, it is done in the east, in the promised land. And this happens before the second one? Advent.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only way to have this heart operation performed upon us is to let the Lord first gather us from among the heathen and bring us into our own land.
This is what we read from the SOP was saying. When God makes the covenant, he will have his people brought into their own land. Their captivity ended. So God is clear how he makes this heart operation. And this is the timing, brethren. Let's hear.
For Then will I, says the Lord, sprinkle clean water upon you,
Right?
and a new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you.
Right? In face of this,
In face of this, I should like to know who could ever live with Christ during the 1,000 years without having first gone to the land, there to be cleansed and there to receive a new heart.
It's a question from the angel from the east. If there is anyone who can make it, he said, I wonder if there is any person who can live with Christ for 1,000 years without first going to the promised land and being prepared. He is speaking in line with what Sister White said. Sister White said, before the second advent, the people of God must be prepared by the people who are converted in the east. So that they may meet the Lord. So he's saying, you cannot meet Christ. You cannot dwell with him 1,000 years. You cannot be drawn up to the throne of God in the north if you are not drawn up to the east first. You need to be drawn up to the east, where you are drawn up by the message of the statutes and the judgments. And what is there to have the heart operation. So when people see us or see people preparing to go to the land, sacrificing their monies to buy tickets 3 times in a year, some are laughing. Yet they don't even know that they are laughing at the very second advent. Without that preparatory step of going first to the promised land and having this stone heart removed, you cannot meet what? Christ. Right? Can we go down to find out? I want us also to take this one, which is in 2TG. 2TG, I don't know that you can see it. 2TG 46 37.1.
Right? Note how clear these verses make the picture.
Right? These verses that are being explained here are the Ezekiel 36, which you have talked about. And what do they say?
That what God does for his people.
Right?
He does, not because they are worth of it.
Right? The reason why God takes us from among the nations and first wants us to have the joy of the whole earth, the kingdom, and enjoy that piece of safety, that kingdom which we lost in Eden before it got to heaven. He does not do it because you are worthy. You hear someone saying, where do you think my old grandmother who is in this place will get the money? Where do you think that's what? The money. Okay, sorry for that, brethren. We'll continue with our lesson. Sorry for that one. Bear with us. You know, when the truth of God is being proclaimed, many things come up usually to disturb this point. Especially this was a very important point, because this is a point that is telling us that when we're among before Christ come, the second advent, God sets up a kingdom which is the joy of the whole earth. With me and you must enjoy. So before that happens, it is very, very important to hear this point. Please take it again. Not how clear.
Not how clear these verses make the picture.
Right?
That what God does for his people, he does, not because they are worth of it,
right?
But for the sake of his own name. That he does it not before, but after he takes them out of all countries,
right, and
brings them into their own land. That he then there cleanses them and changes their hearts.
Right?
All of which shows that as long as these people are commingled with the test,
right,
and live among the Gentiles, they can never be fitted for translation.
Do you see that? As long as these people are commingled among the Gentiles, they can never be fitted. This is the interesting point. You know, among the heathen nations, you've got all this. You can't talk of just whooping up to the heavens. No, you really have to be prepared and made even ready for the what? For the kingdom. Because unless you are there, it says you are not ready for what? For translation. So, brethren, for us to be ready for translation, the angel from the east is very, very clear that we must get into the promised what? Land. Can you take it again? Just finish the section. It says, obviously, therefore,
Obviously, therefore,
right?
The land of our fathers is to be our final and superb dressing chamber, to fit us for the society of pure, sinless, eternal beings.
We have a dressing chamber, brethren. Not just anyway, don't dress among the heathens. No, we have a dressing chamber. And what is a dressing chamber? It's saying, obviously, therefore, the land of our fathers is to be our final and superb dressing chamber to fit us for the society of the pure and sinless and eternal beings. So this is what God is saying, and it's very, very clear. So this is what Angel of the East says. But what brings us to the East, we have seen. What now brings us to the East is of importance. What did the letter rain say? Can you go where it says to teaching number 3, page 8.2, where it says, as the holy flock. Okay, if you have not seen it, I'll read it. As the holy flock, as the flock of Jerusalem in a solemn feast, so shall the west cities be filled with the flocks of men. I know we've seen it.
Yes.
Okay, take it.
As the whole flock,
Right?
as the flock of Jerusalem,
Uh-huh.
in her solemn feast,
Right?
so shall the west cities be filled
You
with flocks
cannot
of men.
have any confusion what brings us to the Holy Land. It's saying you have to learn from where? From the feast. So the solemn feast, brethren, when we gather, going to Israel 3 times in a year for the feast, what are actually is happening? God is doing the work to prepare us to dwell in the what? In the land. For this is an example that he draws us into when he tells us how we are gathered into the promised what? Land. And what does he say?
And they shall know that I am the Lord.
Right?
Is there still a doubt in the hearts of any of you? Or how could there be a doubt?
How could they be any doubt? God is saying, how could they be any doubt? This is a message that comes very, very clear, that when we hear the message of the feast, it is the time for the people of God now to be learning how they'll be gathered in the promised land. How do they learn? 3 times in a year, they appear at the Feast of Passover, Feast of Pentecost, Feast of Tabernacles. We see people now are preparing for camp meeting. They're saying we're getting there. But the camp meeting is, you see, it's not being done where God says it should be done. It's meaningless in other words. It is not showing what you should do. Because no one will point to and say, God will not say, as you were gathering in those hidden lands, in that place and that place, this is how. No, it's clear, as you are gathering where? In Jerusalem. Because that's where the feast takes us to the east. So that's our dressing chamber before Christ comes. And being a dressing chamber is very, very critical. That if you lose out in the dressing chamber, we know that young man who said, no, I will make it with my own clothes. And when the master of the ceremony came, he was asked, friend, why are you in here without the proper clothes? Meaning he had jumped even the dressing what? Chamber. So when he having jumped the dressing chamber, he was clearly told that, hey, my friend, this is not the place. You are not ready for the kingdom. So, brethren, don't jump the dressing chamber 3 times in a year. Make your effort to sacrifice. I was saying that point on top when that hiccup took place, that God does this not because we are worthy. Someone say, my parent from this place, I'm very poor. How will this one make it? How will that one make it? How would I get the money? The question will be asked, okay, where will you get the money to go to the heavens of heavens? You know how far heavens of heaven is. Were it the issue of man, how much were you to pay? Even the scientists are not even able to get even to the Orion. But we're talking about the heavens of heavens, where the planets and the universe are circulating. What is going to get you? You are drawn up by the power of God. You are not drawn up by your money. So this is what God is saying. When I gather you into the promised land, when I give you the message of solemn feast to go 3 times in a year, it is not about your ability. If you think you are worthy, then you are not for the message. Because it is for those that are not worthy, who think themselves, I'm not worthy, and God says, I'm worthy. Because that's what Isaiah says. I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the what? Of the earth. So it means that this message of solemn feast has come up, brethren, to prepare us for the kingdom, to give you the wedding garment, or else you'll be found wanting. Or else I'll be found wanting. So it's a preparatory step. So this is what it says here. I see that our time is almost gone, but there is so much that we would have covered. But I want us to just finish that aspect and then see if we can cover this aspect. Is also important. Read
These verses, you see,
right?
do not really need any interpretation whatever.
Yeah.
There's no plainer doctrine in the Bible. You cannot close your eyes to it,
Right.
and yet expect to be counted among the believers of the Word of God.
Right. So this is what God has made it very, very, very clear about the angel from the east. It's very clear that the solemn feast are the ones that will enable us to be gathered into the promised land. And pertaining the solemn feast and towards the solemn feast, God was very, very clear. There is an important thing that he has done even in the world of technology. I'm sure you'll agree with me now that if I were to go to the East, even in our time now, it was without what technology is now, what God has done in the world of technology, it was going to be a very impossible thing. But now, technology, God has made it very clear. He has provided the aeroplanes, so that you learn how to be in the air. Remember, you think you just learn to be in the air when Christ comes and you are moving for those several days, going to the heavens of heavens. Some, you will cry. Now you need to learn how to be in the air, while we're being prepared for the dressing chamber. It's what's called a dressing what? Chamber. 3 times in a Let us hear what God says about that one. I want us to read this preparatory aspect into about that. We have seen that this is what brings us there. We can go to this book. I want us to go this book, which is also interesting, showing us in this preparatory step. We're not going into the East what God says. The book is PAC or PT UK, November 3, 1898.
Right.
695, paragraph 6.
Someone will ask, do you mean to say that if men were wholly controlled by the word of the Lord,
right,
they would be able to cross the ocean without chart or compass?
Right. So this is an interesting question, that when we are now talking about the people of God being gathered into the promised land, the land of the, there are people of God that are scattered all over the world. So does it then mean how will they cross the sea? What knowledge will actually will they have? Let's go ahead.
To that we have no answer to make.
Right.
But we are to learn from the birds and beasts.
Right.
Not made to do the same things that they do. But that dependence on God, which will make us proportionately wiser than they are.
Right.
In the things which are necessary for us to do.
Right.
One thing is
so
certain.
God is saying you are to learn from the birds. Where is the compass of the birds? We have seen a bird carrying a compass, but it crosses oceans. They crosses oceans, go to a very exact place without losing. So when God says people should be gathered in the East, in their promised land, wherever they are, it doesn't matter. If they learn from the birds, they will be drawn up to where God says they should go. Let's hear.
One thing is certain,
right,
and that is, if men were wholly yielded to the word and spirit of God,
right,
they would make no mistakes in whatever they undertook.
Right. Remember, I was saying when we go into the promise, it is the dressing chamber. We're being prepared even for the heavens of what? Of heavens. Now I want us to go where it says, which even when we are saved, this knowledge will actually be what we are doing to move from one point of the earth to the other point of the earth, going to the promised land 3 times in a year, as God has commanded, as a dressing chamber for the second time, is what again we'll be enjoying even after when the earth is restored again. We're not having a chart or compass like with the birds do, but the feast themselves, the law themselves of God, there will be a chart and a compass. The word of God will be a chart and compass. Let's see what it says. The degree of knowledge that man would possess if he were, go down where it says, that in the world to come.
That in the world to come,
right,
men will be able to go to all parts of the Lord's dominion.
Right.
And not to get lost.
Yeah.
There's not the slightest doubt.
Now if you just go into the ocean without a compass, you will never come back. If you also do the same, you go into the air and you just fly an airplane without a compass, without guidance, you not even know where to land. But the knowledge that God is preparing us and giving us, that we have in the world, is that we can go to all dominions of the world. We talked of the universes, the planets, and to be able to go there without and come back without getting what? Lost. Where is that evidence?
Every Sabbath day, every new moon,
right,
all flesh will appear in the temple of God to worship. From every quarter of the globe,
right,
they will make the journey. Each one will by the most direct route come to the holy city.
Right.
Who dare say that even in this present world, a man well led by the Spirit of God
cannot
do the same thing?
So the knowledge of the Spirit of God, we're being taught that we really need to be preparing to get ready and go and worship the Lord, and He will guide us. And what has the Spirit of God done? Can you go down where it says, prophecy had decreed that the day of God's preparation, What has the Spirit of God done even in the world of technology so that the people of God can be gathered and be prepared even for the second advent in the East? What has the Spirit of God done?
Prophecy has decreed that in the day of God's preparation for finishing his work on earth, knowledge shall be increased.
So this is what prophecy has decreed. Go ahead.
When his hour struck for the giving of his last warning message, nothing could stop it.
Right?
We read, the chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation.
Right?
The chariots shall rage in the street. They shall jostle one against another in the broad ways.
So don't think when you have a car, don't you think you have when you got the aeroplanes and everything, those things were just being what? Given. So God is very, very clear that these things are given for a purpose of spreading the what? The gospel. What is the issue of spreading the gospel? He's saying, in the day of God's preparations, the chariots rage in streets, you have chariots, you have planes, all these things, you have actually been given the knowledge that is excellent. And what is that knowledge that is excellent? They are able to move from one plane to another. You just ride on you just board on a plane. From here, it takes you straight. You find yourself, you're landing in a very place that you want to go. Where did that knowledge come from? It is the Spirit of God that gave that knowledge so that the work of reformation or the work of preparing the people of God to be moved from wherever they are in any portion of the earth at the appointed feast to worship God 3 times a year is not hindered. So God has provided that. This is what it says. How could that book which you are reading is facts, it's FA, page 214, which is facts on what? On faith. It says, how could anyone give a better description?
How could anyone give a better description of modern railroads and automobiles? Even the coming of this Zeppelin and the aeroplane is foretold in the Bible.
So the coming of the aeroplane is foretold in the Bible. For the people of God must actually have what? That knowledge, which will take them so that we're able to worship God 3 times in a year. Remember, it was not going to be possible for people of God to move from different places to go and worship and get prepared. But what has God done? What does he say? Where is it foretold in the Bible, the coming of aeroplanes, which are of our help?
Who are these that fly as a cloud?
Right.
And as the doves to their windows. Isaiah 60 verse 8.
Right.
The smell is striking. For doves and aeroplanes both need landing places.
Right.
This prophet speaks of a time when darkness shall cover the earth and gross darkness the people.
Right.
While God's glorious light is shining upon his faithful servants.
Exactly. So this is what is happening, brethren. Why in that very time when the aeroplanes are there? And what is the next thing we are taught in the book of Nahum? That when the aeroplanes are now there, what should the church be doing? What should be the church doing when the aeroplanes are now there? This is an important point, which brings us to where? To the east. The aeroplanes are not there to enjoy, ride and go where you think you should go. You should know why God has allowed for the aeroplanes to be there. It says, I want you to go down where it tells us what should be happening to the people of God when these aeroplanes are there. This is 2 TG 41, 2 TG 42, man. 2 TG 42, page 41. It says here, now 1 verse 15, are you saying it? Okay.
Yes. Behold,
right?
Upon the mountain the feet of him that bringeth good tidings.
So when you behold the aeroplanes, that's according now. When you behold the automobiles, when you behold all these things, and when you wonder at those things, the inspiration is saying again, remember that the day of God is what? Is at hand. And for you to be prepared to go there, there is a dressing chamber. You are not just picked from anywhere. You are not being picked from anywhere. You have to be picked while you are in position. And God is saying, you should also then behold the message of what? Solemn feast. Let's see it. That's what it says. If you behold an aeroplane, next, the message of solemn feast. It's very clear why. Because the feast should be kept. This is why God will punish the nations. Because one would say, why will God punish the nations? How will they move from Australia to the east? How will they move from South Africa? How will they... God will say, I have given knowledge of the aeroplanes. I have given knowledge of the airways. I have given them compass. I have given everything so that you can move from wherever you are by beholding the message of statutes and judgment, the message of solemn feast. Let's see what he says.
Oh, Judah,
right?
Keep the solemn feast.
When at this very time God is saying, if you are seeing an aeroplane, then keep the solemn feast. The aeroplane is not for enjoyment. It's for you to keep the solemn feast. Why solemn feast? Because you are being prepared, even flying in the heavens. We are told that when you fly into the heaven, it will take several days, and sometimes we'll rest in one of these planets. When we're going up to the heavens of heaven. So Christ wants us to enjoy now, learn about the aeroplane, use the aeroplane in the right way. How make it to take you to where you keep the feast of God. Perform thy vows.
Perform thy vows.
Right.
For the wicked shall no more pass through thee.
Right.
He is utterly cut off.
Here you see.
Here you see that the announcement of this long-expected event is to be made by someone's publications.
Right.
Moreover, he publishes peace
Right.
and thus announced this restoration of the kingdom.
Uh-huh.
This is the only peace that the world can have.
This is the only peace that the world can have. This is the only peace, brethren, we and you can actually have. What is this peace? It is the peace of keeping the solemn feast. This is why we tempt it. When the feasts are kept and we are taken into the dressing chamber and we are made ready, then we'll enjoy the joy of the world. This is what Ellen White said. We shall not yet know, but when the latter rain comes, you will teach us. Now the latter rain is teaching us what makes us to get in the promised land. It is the message of solemn feast. No other peace can the world have. Those that neglect this preparation, they will not make it. Let's just hear that section. It says, behold upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings. This one which I'm reading is 2 TG 14:3:11.4, which says, behold, okay, if you have seen it, can you take it? We start where it says, here we are told that at the time the war.
Here we are told that at the time the war is fought, someone is to be publishing inspired revelations of new revealed truth.
You know what the nations, when they see the automobiles, they see the aeroplanes, and they see all this technology, what are they thinking? They are thinking of fighting one another. They have developed several types of weapons, this type of weapon, that type of weapon. But that's not what is in the mind of God. What is in the mind of God is for the people of his people to use these aeroplanes in keeping even the feast that God is what he has appointed. So he says here that that time when we see this fulfilled, the nations are in a position to fight. When the feast are being proclaimed, the nations are not in stable conditions. We see even these diseases, all these things. This must also happen in this what? In these last days when the feast are being proclaimed. And what God says,
the truth of the judgment of the living,
right?
Which is to forever separate the wheat from the tares, the good fish from the bad,
right?
The sheep from the goats, and the wise virgins from the foolish ones.
Right.
This shall no more pass through. The church declares the scripture.
Right.
They are utterly cut off. Thus urging Judah, the church,
right,
to keep this untypical atonement.
So God is urging Judah, or is urging his church at the present time, to keep the antical feast. We have seen when they keep the antical feast, they are drawn to the east. They are taught where they should be. Or else,
and to perform their vows to God is to be found worthy of escaping the judgments of God. So
if me and you, brethren, are to escape the judgments of God that are about to fall in this world, God is saying we should be keeping the message of what? Of solemn feast. So in our getting almost into closing our topic, we find that it is also of importance to understand who, because when we see about this one which we've been talking about, the keeping of the solemn feast, the message of the rod which came in the 1929, they never made people to keep the feast. He died people not keeping the feast, but he has spoken about that the feast should be kept. And then we even see when the message came, even afterwards, the message of the branch, people tried to keep the feast, but they tried to go and keep the feast in the east, but it was not so, however, that possible and very clear. But we have seen, we want to see why is it that where exactly the message which then lightens the whole earth, which then takes us to the east, starts from. Because it's very, very clear to know where that message starts from. That will be among our closing section, so that we actually hear where that message should start from. Remember, we indicated that the gospel of Christ started in the east, and we have seen that the third message was in the west, even the message of the road was in the west. But we want to see what was revealed as to the truth that will lighten, bring the people of God to the promised land, so that they are prepared to meet with Christ. This is what we want to find out. We'll find that one in the book it's based on the famous prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 47. So the famous prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 47 will tell us as to where we should expect that coming, as to the positions of the earth. When we know that that has happened, we know that then the people of God are going 3 times in a year, and they are now being prepared for the dressing chamber and for the kingdom. And afterwards, when the kingdom takes place, they are gathered into the ark of safety in the promised land, and they are prepared to meet with what? With Christ. Can you take it from SR 291 paragraph 3, which says, afterward, it's based on Ezekiel 47 verse 1. Afterward, he brought me, while he's looking for it, I'll read it here. Afterward, he brought me again unto the door of the house, and behold, the waters issued out under the threshold of the house eastward. For the forefront of the house stood toward the east, and the waters came down under it from the right side of the altar, at the south side of the altar. So if you are reading this prophecy in Ezekiel, you are being told the water or the river that will actually make the whole world or the whole earth to be actually what? Healed from maladies and sickness. It's being said that it is seen that it was coming from the house of God. But when it was coming from the house of God, it dropped towards the what? Down in the south side. When in the south side, it then moved towards the what? The east. This is what the scripture is saying. I'm sure you are hearing. I'll just take it so that we hear what it says. Afterward, he brought me again unto the door of the house, and behold, the waters issued under the threshold of the house. So the waters are coming under the threshold of the house, which is the temple of what? Of God. And where do they go? They go eastward once they issue. And for the forefront of the house stood towards the what? The east. And the waters came down under the right side of the house, at the side side of the altar. So the waters, when they come from the temple, they are coming from the south side. And then when they come from the south side, where do they do? They then go to the what? To the eastward. You remember, we talked about the 3 angels' messages. The 3 angels' messages, they are seen flying in the midst of heaven, and we said they are, that's what they come. And come the angel from the east, which we have been studying. He's also doing the same, because what is he seen doing? He is seen going what? He is seen ascending from the what? From the east. But when it comes to the message of Revelations 18, he touches the ground. So it means that if the angel comes from the north, where the temple of God is, to the earth, it will definitely touch the what? As it touches the earth, it will definitely, coming from the north, going down, it means it touches the earth from the south. But we want to see how the scripture says it. So here is what we're reading. I want us to, in our closing, to hear this one. It says, then he said unto me, I'm reading again on 2DG 296 paragraph 4. We want to understand the meaning of what I was explaining about the angel about the waters coming from the north and then going down to the south and then eastward. Then it says here, then said he unto me, these waters issue out towards the east country, and go unto the desert, and go unto the sea. It is remarkable to note how perfect these symbols. I don't know if you've seen it. All right. This, I don't know if we have seen it. We are reading, but I'll read it again. It says, it is remarkable to note how perfect these symbols are in each instance. This direction of the compass denotes that the message of the loud cry is to start eastward when it is first revealed. So when we see that the message, the message starts from where, according to when it is revealed, it starts where? Eastward from the time it is what? Revealed. The church membership being largely east of California and across Atlantic, naturally the message must start toward the east. This symbolic prophecy reveals that the message of the loud cry is to originate in California, thus fulfilling the words of the spirit of prophecy in the letter to Andros, which says, as I read, I feel comfortable that the brethren in Southern California. So you can see when the third angel, the angel from the east, he thought that the message will start from the southern position, and he was referring it to where, as in which place? In the land of what? Of the west. But we know from the prophecies that we have studied so far, which we maybe studied at that time, that the message that brings the people of God to the promised land, it is a message that begins from the south. And then when it starts from the south, according to Ezekiel 47, it then spreads to where? It goes to the east. This is what we are saying. When the message came, it takes us 3 times in a year to go and worship God in the appointed what? Place. And 3 times in a what? In a year. So this is what is actually happening, and it spreads to the what? To the east. This is what happened even in the days of Moses, when the message came, which was to deliver them out of Egypt. It says they were tested to the message of what? Of the feast. So when they tested the message of feast, we know it came. Egypt is south of what? Of the promised land. And this is what really happened at that time. And even finally in the closing word, that message begins south, and then it goes to the east. And then from the east, if you read the prophecy of Ezekiel, it then goes eastward. How many times? Into 4. It measures 4 times, which goes 4 directions into the what? 4 points of the compass, which is the whole what? World. So, brethren, at this present time, it's a very important lesson that we would have been having about the second advent. That before Christ comes, the second advent, the people of God must be prepared to go to the dressing what? Chamber. Where the dressing chamber, we have seen that it is the land in the promised what? Land. And God has given us the message of the feast, and has given us the technology even of the aeroplanes and everything, so that we might behold the feet of him that is upon the mountains, and keep the solemn feast, so that we are prepared for the second advent. So when Christ comes, he will find us in the east, and will be the first to see him. If you would like to hear more of these lessons, tune on PSM TV, and you learn many of the lessons which will be of your blessing to lift us and prepare us for the kingdom. May God bless you and bless you in the reading of his word.